So this is the gem of the great KRS-One. He said, this is how you prove we add value to each other. He says, take a total stranger. The stranger is drawing a painting on the subway, and you go with your value, right? Just to say to someone, yo, that painter sucks. They don't look at that crappy ass painter, da da da. That does nothing, right? That puts it down, and then somebody's like, why are you telling me this painter sucks or this and that? But now take the same situation reversed. That's an amazing painter. You should check out, yo, there's a guy right down the station. His artwork is great. She's painting such beautiful masterpieces. Go take a look at it. Someone goes, oh, wow, I'll take a look. You know what I mean? And that raises things the same way the Matrix stock market raises things. We are the things that invest in each other's stock. How many times is it about, hey, check out this great song I heard, right? You're going to do that quicker than someone says, click here to check out my stuff, right? Someone will say, yo, I love this song, check it out. They'll just text it to you because it feels about their emotions, right? And it takes you to their feelings. So, like, share things that you love. Yo, I love this passion fruit. I love this banana, whatever it is. Like, think about, we do it all the time. So why can't we do that with each other?
Hi, we live. Thank you everybody for showing up to This Week's Network event
Please.
39. So shout out to everybody who showed up. Yay! Hello. Nah, but this networking build, I called it Shift the Story, based off of a message that I received from Source, right? But before we even get into all of that, I want to introduce who I am and why I'm even here, right? So my name is Liz, and I have many titles I go by. I'm a mother, singer, songwriter, creative of many different things like fiber arts, founder of Honey, a lot of things. But for today, I would like for you guys to consider me a messenger of Source, specifically because this message that I'm about to share today came in the midst of trying to find a new co-host, right? We had someone slated for today, but because of scheduling conflicts, they weren't able to make it. And I wasn't gonna step in and lead this session because normally I take the back seat, and prior experiences to the network and build session, I kind of got a little insecure to even step up, but something within my spirit said, do it anyways. And yeah, we're here today. But like I said before, I felt a little bit of insecurity, so I turned to what I know best, which is going to tarot, reaching out to my higher self, and asked Source, what is a message that I need to deliver to the collective that they really need to hear today? And I pulled the Five of Cups sideways. Now, I interpret cards a little differently than most people. When I do see sideways positions in cards, it's just to let me know that there's a challenge that that card is navigating. So in this case, the Five of Cups is representative of being stuck within like grief, disappointment, frustrations. And in the sideways interpretation, it means that you're like in this liminal space trying to move from that into growth, but you're like right smack in the middle of it. And it hit me. I was like, yo, I actually navigate that in between state quite often, and I see why Source told me to be the messenger. But I do want to make sure that it is clearly noted that I am not a licensed mental health professional. There's a lot of talks here regarding mental health or understanding emotions. My only credentials is the fact that I have my experiences, aka wisdom and Source. Those are my credentials. So but I do understand that that's not a substitute for therapy or any medical support. So if at any time anybody feels uncomfortable, doesn't feel safe, or doesn't feel aligned with the messages that I have to offer, which are just my experiences, you have full permission to step away, because you should always put your well-being first, right? So we got that. And speaking on the cards of the in-between state, right? I call this the waiting place, because again, you're in the middle of trying to transcend certain feelings, certain experiences that weigh heavy on your heart, and knowing that there's a version of yourself that no longer aligns with that message, but then going into that healing space, or the healed version of yourself, is kind of like almost a bit elusive. So you're right smack in the middle of it. And sometimes we experience certain emotional cycles where we think we're kind of going back because we're resurfacing wounds that we thought we've healed. But this is such a sacred space to be in, and it actually dictates that you're doing the work, because you're not stuck in that former narrative, but you just need a little push in the direction of what you're supposed to actually embody in this lifetime, right? And as we all know, healing is not linear. You're going to have moments where you're going to come back around to a certain experience, but it's just revisiting those old narratives with the new perspectives that we gain from experiences. So that's why it's such a sacred space to be in. So in the chat, right, I would love for you guys to put up a pill emoji to let me know, have you guys seen the Matrix movie before? I've personally seen bits and pieces of this movie, and I think it's by design, because Source just wants me to pick up certain key details from it relative to my life experience. And one of those things are the scene where Neo, he goes to visit, I believe it's the Oracle, to find answers, right? And he comes across this little boy who he's bending the spoon with his mind, and he's inspired. He's like, yo, I want to bend the spoon. when he's trying to do it, he can't do it, right? And he asks the little boy, like, yo, how you bending the spoon? And he's like, there is no spoon, right? And I think that's so powerful and oftentimes kind of goes over our head because we don't realize the power that we have to create the narratives in our lives, right? And once when you know that understanding that the world shifts the moment you start seeing things in a different perspective, um, you have the absolute power there, right? Hold on. Give me 1 second, guys. I do apologize. Okay, I'm told to mute the music. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. We're gonna hit that pause. Okay, boom. All right, and we back. All right. So the narratives, right, that we oftentimes get stuck in, that we tell ourselves, is the old version of ourselves that no longer aligns with this current narrative. Now, I don't believe in villainizing any aspects of ourselves, even if if it's not the healthiest approach to what we have to do in life. I don't think we should point fingers to be like, oh, this is a bad version of ourselves, and I want to get rid of it altogether, right? Because this version of ourselves was created to adapt in environments that felt unsafe, right? We created these narratives just to experience love and safety, and we believe that we had to embody certain things or do certain things or suppress certain aspects of ourselves just to receive those things. And these stories are neither truth nor lies, but they're just rather strategies. They just are. They're ways for us to exist. And I think that instead of villainizing these aspects of ourselves, we should actually celebrate the fact that our beings created these narratives to survive. Because without them, I honestly believe we would not be in this present moment, because I believe we all have a version of ourselves that we are transitioning out of. And it's so important to honor those versions of ourselves. But we also have to be rooted in reality to recognize, like, okay, this version of ourselves is is no longer in alignment with where we're trying to go, because staying stuck in those versions of ourselves, we kind of reinforce these survival loops because we're centering our pain. And with this liminal space where you can recognize, yo, the, these kind of behaviors, they're bringing experiences that just don't resonate. It's causing disappointment. It's causing frustration. I don't want to be here, but I just don't know where I'm supposed to go. It's such a beautiful space just to remember who we actually are beyond these survival adaptations. So, I do want to ask you guys a reflection prompt of what is one belief or truth you've learned growing up that you have since outgrown? So anybody could go. Oh, and then Nicholas. Yeah, Edwin, you could go.
I'm so used to using the raise hand in class. I think one belief, I guess one truth that was given or instilled is that like having to follow a linear path.
Mm,
I'm going towards a career. I'm going towards career wise where you have to go to school and you have to do this specific track in order to get the specific job so that you can sustain yourself. And I think ever since becoming a creative, I've outgrown that because there are many different ways to go about your career, but also we're all learning as we go, especially as humans. We're not machines. Like we're not programmed to do things exactly the way it's supposed to be. We all make mistakes, and I think that's just one thing that I've outgrown, and I want to uplift the whole idea of like many versions of ourselves suited to different environments. I just want to, I guess, be a little bit vulnerable that like I'm getting to a point where like this my classes are not really serving my purpose,
mm,
and I I don't want to say I outgrown it, but more so I kind of want to lead into a more different branch in what I want to do.
mhm. Yo, thank you so much for sharing that with the collective, man. I feel like that sentiment is resonant with a lot of people where we are always told what success or what a career path should look like, and we oftentimes ignore the inner calling that we feel within ourselves. And I want to know, how do you think your survival and your childhood experience influenced the way that you saw yourself or influenced those thought patterns?
So I grew up in a single mother household, and I watched my mom strive and strive all on her own. Obviously, I have family, but like she's a single mom, so I didn't really have a father figure to kind of help support her. And she's a strong mother. Like I can't say that enough. I kind of inherited that from her. Of like I have to work my ass off, and I've been doing that for many years. But I don't really, I don't have, I don't, I'm not where I want to be, and that's
Mm,
why I wanted to make a change.
mhm,
And obviously, my creative stuff is still flowing within me, and that's kind of maybe what brought me to start doing these networking builds, or doing the last one I did. It was I want to do something about it.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously I'm in class. Again, I said it's not really serving my purpose. And then with the loss of my job, it's like, now what am I going to do? So I need to find my purpose. And I think creating a space, an environment, as you will, where a version of myself is thriving as a creative and amongst other like-minded creatives is what's calling to me right now. And
Mm.
I think that's going to help me break out of this mold that's been, given to us or been that we've been told to do, and make something different out of it where I can also survive and be happy with what I'm doing.
Yes, I feel like you're on your way there. Just acknowledging that there's a version of yourself that is already thriving beyond your current reality, I do believe is where we should always shift our focus instead of getting stuck in the past. So thank you again for sharing that, Edwin. I really appreciate you. Is there anybody else that would like to share their what one belief or truth that they've learned within childhood and they grew out of it?
I can toss in one.
Mm-hmm.
I got shotgun after Y.
Hey, ready to go. Ready to
What?
go, boss? I was asking if you was live. I threw you in the chat.
Like Sway in the morning. Get your daily dose.
Hey. All right. Well, I'll throw in since I'm already up here. Is looking outside of myself. I was taught definitely, oh, you have to get this, you got to work this. Even as an artist, oh, how much tracks you got up, how much views you got up, how many shows you doing this week, right? It's always something outside of yourself to measure yourself in. So I feel like, oh, you get a degree, you'll be fine. You'll get this, oh, get a stable this, you know what I mean? And then I realize it's all shit. It's all what you make it. Like, yes, you find whatever you are in the outside world. So I would say that how I was able to outgrow it, was because I had to really, really look at my life and look inside and be like, I'm responsible for my life. I'm creating my life. People talk about learning how to manifest and forget that they're creating the life they're in. They already manifested what they is. We're in it. So it just became accountability. How can I use the accountability in order to hold myself knowing that whatever it is you want, you could create as long as you believe it. But you have to believe it before you see it, not see it before you believe it. And survival definitely influenced the way that I saw myself. Because when you're in survival mode, I've learned too, you get triggered, right? And triggers a lot of times are just taking you to the past. They're not even a real threat happening. They're usually something that is a perceived threat. And in not being able to handle that perceived threat, we get pulled back into the past. So I feel a lot of times I'm actually in a great situation, but you get pulled back mentally, physically, and energetically into an old version of yourself that doesn't really serve you.
Mhm.
So I think survival influences a lot of us because we feel like, oh, we got to make this money, we have to pull this, right? But truth is, you just got to exist, man. And those things will happen, they'll come. And you'll find a way because you've always found a way, right? Somehow, some way, we've all managed to get to this point. So you always will.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man. And we're there. So I swing it to Guaz. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Why?
Man, wow, thank you so much. And Edwin, just want to echo something that you shared, which I think was really, really beautiful. You spoke to the things that we have been given. And I think that, for example, my share is gonna kind of echo one of your points because I was given the instruction of relatives who came from a insular family. Whether or not your parents stood together wasn't wasn't a contingency in the way that I was groomed. It was a blessing from us to receive from. So some of us had our fathers all our lifetimes. Some of us had our fathers in episodes. But what I received from community, and more specifically from my grandmothers and later on from my grandfathers, once he saw that I wasn't just talking, I could actually walk, was this teaching that you can do everything and you will never have to choose to do just one thing. And unfortunately for myself, I had begun to think because I saw some of my friends making decisions that I was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm just going to be really good at one thing. And it was impossible for me to do that because I was entrusted with so much more responsibility just by virtue of, growing up, having my dad and then my dad leaving and then growing up and raising my little sister to also serve alongside my mother. I was being prepared for the things that I'm going through right now, which was home building or what the Christians and the Catholics would call kingdom building. But what most often happens is that the world can sometimes offer us things. They didn't give it to us, they offer it to us, and we choose to accept it. And for a little while, it was a very short while, it's kind of around the time when I started reading. And once I started getting to novels, I started to say, well, these main characters, they're not only good at one thing. Frodo Baggins wasn't just good in Lord of the Rings because he was just a hobbit and he was short. You know, Bilbo Baggins wasn't really good just because he was a smartass. He was cunning. He was talented. He had the gift of gab, but he also had the gift of his own internal self-reflection. So what are we choosing to accept? And what are we doing with our acceptance? Was something I had to learn, because very quickly, when I was looking around at my peers at 11 and 12 years old, and I'm working at Key Food, you know, bagging groceries and working frozen foods, I started to notice that, well, I'm good in frozen foods, and I'm really fast in checkout. You know, with bagging groceries, I can move faster than the cashiers. But people tell me they like me because I'm funny. People tell me they like me because I was sweet. People tell me that I had a good personality, and people also tell me that I'm smart. So if I can only do one thing because my family immigrated to this country and they had to fit in a box, well, I think they're wrong. And so I no longer accept what they were trying to have me accept or trying to teach me was permissible. And at that point, at a very young age, I said, no, I'm not just going to do, I'm not just going to become a doctor. I'm also going to be an athlete. I'm also going to be an advocate. I'm also going to be a lawyer. And you know what? I'm going to become a nanotechnician.
Mm.
And that was something that I had to experience in my own internal dialogue with acceptance and revivification. And I really appreciate that word, because to vivify means to bring life to. And so there are parts of our lives that have died. There are parts of our lives that people murdered. There are parts of our lives that we have been so traumatized out that we now have a fear response, right? A negative affectual response that now I'm saying I'm bringing them back to life. And I can do that. It is our divine right to do that if we choose to find the skill sets develop. You shall not pass.
Mhm. Alrighty. Okay. Ooh. All right. Sorry, the ending cut off there. I wasn't sure if you finished, Guaz.
I did.
You did? Okay, beautiful.
I did.
All right, perfect. Thank you guys so much for sharing your experiences, man. You guys echoed a lot of the things that we spoke on in the beginning, like why when you talked about when we cycle back, right? Because healing is not linear. We get brought back to certain wounds that may trigger us, but it's just to show how much we've grown, and how we choose to navigate it is based off of how we change the narrative of our past experiences. And Guaz, I think it was so powerful of what you shared about authenticity, right? Where you said that there's parts of ourselves that were traumatized and killed off because we were striving to survive and be loved and fit in, and we tried to limit ourselves or put ourselves in a box instead of embracing our multifaceted nature, just because of what society deems is appropriate or what our family deems to be right. And it's up to us, as we develop our consciousness level, to be able to take care of ourselves and navigate the world. We have to learn how to reparent our inner child to know, no, it's safe to be a multifaceted being. Yes, it's safe to pursue a career in creativity and not have to follow the starving artist narrative, you know? And I thank you guys so much for your sharing. Um, but to reinforce also about the whole concept of how our old self, the narratives that we tell ourselves, kind of make us have to navigate a certain field here of not knowing the difference between needs and wants, right? Our wants, these are the coping mechanisms that kind of keep us stuck in these narratives, right? It's the things that we tell us ourselves that justify why we have to stay in a certain way or being, right? But in reality, I consider those as messengers to actual foundational or root requirements that we need to fulfill. And I have developed a list here, just to give a fair, I don't know if the word is a fair forewarning or whatever. This is not to be read across, because there are so many nuances of how we tend to navigate both needs and wants, right? So, like if somebody craves or wants validation or praise for the things that they do, it can actually be a message within all of these aspects. Maybe they crave validation because they're seeking stability, maybe freedom and autonomy, maybe they
Nice.
want to be understood or find clarity in their purpose and meaning in life. So all these things are not just an easy plug and play, but they all are interconnected together and can be a wider range of like different needs that we need to meet, right? But yeah, we got Tej. Look at that. I'm gonna admit him. But yeah, like I wanted to make sure that you guys have this because we're gonna soon go out into a breakout room to play a little game. have a game here called From Chore to Choice, right?
Ooh.
To help us reframe our daily responsibilities or narratives that keep us in a state of obligation to intentional choices. And it's to help us move from that autopilot survival mindset to become more empowered. And it's a 5-question process and requires radical not just authenticity, excuse me, but honesty as well. You have to really dig in deep and be vulnerable to actually, you know, answer these questions for it to have an effect, right? And I'm gonna read out the questions, give out the examples below. And I feel like a majority of us can actually relate to this example. I know for sure I can. But the first step would be, what do you feel you have to do, be, or suppress? What narrative do you tend to tell yourself that you have to become, do, or be? For me, I was somebody who believed I had to be strong for my son as a single mom. You know, I had to be strong for my friends, strong for my family members, right? These are the narratives that I told myself I had to be. Now, the next question is, what do you think you want? In those moments when I tell myself that narrative, to be quite honest, I see my families and friends and everything going through things. I don't want to be an added burden to their life. I don't want to look weak or fall apart. You know, these people, they seem like they need me and I need to stay in control, right? So, what is this thought of my wants is actually telling me about my needs? So, it goes with the what's the real need behind it? This is where we have to actually be vulnerable and honest with ourselves. In feeling those feelings, what I was actually searching for was to feel safe and to feel valued. I felt like I needed to do these things to be loved. And, you know, if I didn't hold it together, I felt like I had to perform and have it done that way, right? Now, once when you analyze those 3 things, you have to be honest with yourself to say, hey, is this coming from a place of fear, of love, or survival, right? Because oftentimes we can hide behind the want and not understand the need, and we can justify it by saying, oh, no, this is coming from a place of love because I really love my family, and, you know, just give us a reason. For this, I could have said that, but to be quite honest, this is a survival mechanism that I developed growing up in environments that did not feel safe to be vulnerable, where I had to be strong, I had to be useful and needed and in control. And then this is where you would then use your imagination, right? And look at yourself from a perspective of from confidence. What would it look like if you actually trusted yourself to navigate this beyond survival, right? For me, I would learn to ask help before I break down. And I would allow myself to feel my feelings, to cry it out, and say that I'm not okay and not feel guilty, shamed, you know, about feeling these feelings. And I would stop performing for my love. I would stop trying to prove how strong I am and honor my softness, because we, at the end of the day, it's in reference to what Edwin said in the very beginning. We're human. We're not designed to be like ChatGPT and just have all the answers, you know? So before I actually turn this to the collective, I do know that Tej came in, uh, and I want to ask him the question from before. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. If you're willing to. Oh, did he disappear on me when I called him out? He did? Ah, shit. It's all right. Nobody. This is a safe space. I told y'all from the beginning. That's exactly what y'all supposed to do. Trust y'all inner self. I don't want to force anything, any healing that nobody's ready for. You know, he probably may come back. Who knows? But yes, I guess we can go into
Full disclosure, we had a moment just now. I realized I just posted it publicly. I was apologizing to my order my supplement list from a couple of, well, at this point probably like over a month ago.
yeah.
And y'all know me. I don't hide accountability nor shy away from an opportunity for integrity, because like, oh, all good. So I was writing that. I don't think he left because he wasn't ready for healing. I think he just got disconnected or something.
Maybe not. Listen, and that's on some real Leo shit, you know? We about
Real
integrity and
deal.
stuff like that. So I feels you on that one right there. But yeah, everything flows the way it needs to go. Do you guys feel ready to do the breakout activity? Okay,
I'm with it.
perfect. Okay, let me escape this real quick. I forgot to download this so then you guys can have the actual.
Slides are beautiful, sis.
Thank you. It's all thanks to Gamma. You know what I'm saying? I got a link for you guys, and then y'all could get yourselves the slides. And I'm not gonna hold you. It's an affiliate link, so I'm gonna get some points if y'all sign up. So
Send that link. Send that link. We're gonna promote you. Let's do it.
yes, beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna go back to present, and then I'm gonna go into the chat, and then I'm gonna everyone. Let's see. Screenshot. Wow. Let's see. Okay, boom. There you go. So this is the question. So then everybody has it for reference. I highly recommend to download it now because I don't know if it's going to transfer over when we do the breakout room. But those are the questions with the examples. All right. Do you guys need the list of needs and wants to kind of have like a little reference point. Jazeel!
Hazel is about to enter.
Oh my god, I'm pronouncing it wrong. I said the J, right? Hazel.
Hazel.
Oh my gosh. Sorry about that.
Sorry about me, guys. I'm over here coming in last minute and shit.
No, it's done in divine timing. You came when you're meant to. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate you.
Of course.
Okay, so before we actually go into the breakout room, we're gonna go back real quick. How do you feel about sharing a give me 1 second, a belief or a truth that you learned growing up that you have since outgrown?
Believe that since I've grown. Oh, that not talking about money. The money is bad. Money is evil.
That could be one of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have a narrative that's been told about that. So yeah.
That only white rich people can make money. The rest of us can't. That's what was always told to me.
Mhm. And how do you think your survival influenced the way you saw that narrative and yourself?
Can you elaborate a bit more on that question?
So, like, how did your childhood influence the philosophy that, money is only reserved for the rich people, or, money is the root of all evil? Like, how did you come to that realization through your survived experience? Ice Smith froze. He froze. I love it. He's gonna come back.
Froze on there. The internet got him.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the truth answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how his face is just frozen there. That's fun.
Ah! Second
Yo,
one. How did the thing?
I love how T went disappeared and cats went missing in this.
Yeah.
There's some heavy science in here.
Yo,
Frozen fuel. Heads just coming in and out like that. I love it.
bro, I'm telling you, it's all in divine orchestration. But let's see. Should we give it a minute? Should we jump into the breakout room? I feel like this is the third time. Oh, you muted.
Oh, he texted me. He texted me to say his internet went down. So he might pop in. So if he pops in again, just you can put him in somewhere. I have the foam short choice downloaded.
Okay, beautiful. Sorry. How do I do the breakout room situation?
Let me see.
I
It
think-
should under the bottom more. Yeah, it should be under the more section in the bottom. Say breakout room.
Okay.
Maybe if you make me co-host, I could do it because I gave
Well,
it.
I don't even know where that thing is at.
So right on the bottom, it should be where just where the video, audio, and the bottom bar is.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a more
Uh-huh.
with the 3 dots,
Yeah.
and then under the more with the 3 dots, it should say breakout rooms, and it'll say how many to create.
No. I meant the co-host situation.
Oh, co-host, you'd have to go to my name under the participants, and then to the right of me under the more, there's a down
Oh,
arrow.
I did it. Sometimes I just need like a little gem. I think I made you a host.
Okay, so let me see if I can do this now. Okay, breakout rooms. How many you want me to make? There's 4 of us, so 2, right?
Two and two. Yeah.
All right,
See you
breakout
guys on
room.
the other side.
All right, let's go. Create. It's happening. There you go. Perfect.
Oh.
Yeah, so going over the questions, we passed these around. I was in the breakout group with Guaz.
Mhm.
And the first question of what do you feel you have to do, parentheses, be or suppress, in regards to the responsibilities from your daily obligation. So, Guaz was bold and said nothing, like that there is nothing we have to do. There is nothing, we just have to, being is what it is, and there's nothing we have to hold back. I did add on to say that, sometimes I do feel like I have to be present, I have to be aware, and, I do have to be mindful of certain things. Just, but that all comes down to if you just can know and exist, that is enough. It doesn't have to go into doing. But, it's a little bit of the cat chasing its tail, of to know you're aware is just to be, not really be anything. So, it is that little fine line of that you don't know where to do that. And, we're always in that flux and flow. So it's a very vibrational state,
Mhm.
So it is something that's there, but it's not something that has to be done with effort, if you will. What do you think you want? Guaz, once again, he stood firm on, not really, succumbing to the thoughts. But, I do say when I kind of glance, say sometimes I think I want peace, to be at peace with the situation, to accept, right? It comes back to an awareness. So I think that knowing that is there, that you can be at peace with everything and every situation. What is the real need? This is when Guaz had to go. What is the real need behind it? And I think with peace, it does equate to safety or just calmness, just to be able to know, like, no matter what's happening out there, that I'm good in here, There was a great meme I saw of somebody, he was getting cursed at and yelled at by some guy, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's screwed up," but the person didn't mind. Like, when anybody shows you who they are, that shouldn't bother you. You know what I mean? Unless they're trying to put physical hands on you, or even that, and that's where it gets deep. Where if we do get something like that, that is something that we're creating. You might not have done anything to that person, but we're creating these situations that come to us. So I think it's very important to know we're always creating at all times, So I think that is more of a meaning behind it, but the peace does come from something of just wanting to be able to navigate and handle, And then is it coming from fear, love, or survival? It's always in flux, right? When you make decisions out of fear, when I've made decisions or choices that were fear-based, I noticed that it brings more fear-based thoughts. Oh, this is money. Oh, I'm not doing this. Oh, I'm not doing good. It's a spiral staircase. But you can choose the love, and you can choose that, and you can choose to say, hey, I'm no longer in that place. Even if you were in that place 5 minutes ago, 5 seconds ago, you know what I mean? You have the ability to say, I'm no longer there. You know what I mean? I was down in that, but we could always bring ourselves now. Once again, if you're not in physical danger, no one's physically harming you, you know what I mean? You can really ground yourself in this notion. And of course, we do survive. I think somehow we forget that we are not that different from the plants and the trees. They figure out if everyone had to water a tree, I think we said this in the last one, the trees would be out. You know what I mean? If everyone had to feed the sky or do something, these things just exist. And I think we forget that somehow we manage to persevere and exist and thrive just through our existence. I think the lie is that we won't, The lie is to keep us afraid. The lie is to be like, no, you're not going to be nothing. You need this other thing. Or, I was telling Liz earlier that, hey, the whole thing is, in the future, I will. And then we think that helps us, but it's almost like just making it always go away to this thing on a pedestal we never reach. So it's just like, yo, I fucking did it, man. I'm here. You know what I mean? And I think that goes right into the last question to me. What would it look like if you trusted yourself? It would look like acceptance. It would look like being at peace with the current situation, no matter how dire it seems, no matter how hopeless it may look on the outside, no matter how crazy your bank account can get. You're just here, and it would just feel more like, I don't know what it would look like, but I think it's just about, it would just feel like you have it. You have things not under control. You have what you need to get through where you are, and you are where you're meant to be, and I do think it would just, I use the word feel instead of look because, I feel that all these things should go on regardless of how this thing looks like, So you're gonna be all right. That's why I think that Kendrick song was so great. It was just a great line of we gonna be all right. You know what I mean? I would take it even one step further. We are all right. We all right. You can even shorten it even lower. Like you're okay. You're here. You're existing. And there is something to be grateful. I also saw a meme today. Once again, shout out to the memes. It was just like, yo, if you got no legs, then somebody got no arms and legs. If you got something like this and this, if you, they said if you out here living, somebody's burning in hell, bro. Like it was just like basically everybody could look at someone else's situation and point the finger. So acceptance, I would say, it would feel like acceptance. It would look like accepting. It would look like the truth. It would look like you're here, and I keep referring back to peace, but I think that's my piece on it, and how to run through the gamut. I didn't get this far with Guaz, but I know he brought in the spirit. Wakanda forever, we out here.
Yeah.
Throw up old dap, I'll bring back the dap. All right, I'm out.
LMFAO. Thank you so much, Why. Thank you so much, Edwin. Yes, this was a very powerful experience, and a lot of what we discussed, it was in reference to this about loosening the grip on what we think needs to happen or occur in our lives, right? And I just want to go over just to reinforce a couple of thoughts, right? So for me personally, I understand that letting go doesn't necessarily mean erasing the past, right? We honor that journey because those experiences helped us get into the version of ourselves that we are today, but we don't hold on to those past traumas, right? Because those past traumas are sources of the many have-tos that we tend to tell ourselves. And sometimes future anxiety is from holding both the idea that we have to erase something, fix something, change something, as well as the trauma of what we went through. And it just creates unnecessary tension within our spirit. And all we have to do is just loosen and allow ourselves to, what Y said, be, right? I think true healing, and this is my motto for House of Nova Insights, is that healing is synonymous to authenticity. How real can you be about yourself no matter what the situation outside of yourself looks like, right? Because oftentimes, like how Y said, things may look dire than what they actually are. And no matter what that experience is, you're supposed to be true to who you are, because that's what got us to have those traumatic experiences, and getting us to formulate these narratives is to think that what we innately know within ourselves, our beings, our intuition, is wrong, when in fact going against that is us abandoning ourselves, right? Now, I don't know if we should go over these prompt reflections because I feel like we've covered a lot of that when we were discussing the thingy majiggy. But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to go over it. But the questions are: who were you before you learned you had to become someone else, and what part of you is asking to be remembered right now? We could do yes if you want to do it. No, we'll skip past it. I will skip past it. I feel like we covered it already.
Make that executive decision.
Right. Yes, so again, these are just words of affirmation to finalize the whole concept, right? And it's just to give us ourselves permission to shift this narrative, right? So remember that you are not broken, but just unfolding. You have the power to write your own story, and you need to just give yourself that permission to rewrite it. Peace is not earned. You don't have to do or work hard to gain that peace. It's just remembering, again, who you are. And wisdom comes from the experiences that we go through. So every time when we go back to that experience, it's just to bring us closer to growth, right? And to conclude this whole thing, I just want to thank you guys for showing up and, allowing the vulnerability to share your journeys with me. If you guys ever need to stay in contact, share your experience more, need any further support, my door is always open. This is kind of like an introduction to my services, right? So House of Nova Insights does help with people who are navigating this in between state and need a little more reaffirmation or a little more clarity. So I have offerings such as like clarity codes, which are quick insights based off of numerology, intuitive insights through tarot that can help answer any questions that you may have. I also have personal one-to-ones called seen and supported sessions, where it would be like this, but the one-to-ones situation more in depth, and we can develop like a game plan in the long run to help you guys navigate that, and as well as feel the music, where you guys can check out the music I've written so far. Because like Edwin, I told you, I've made the songs and all that stuff, but nobody knows. And eventually, I do hope to make that into a workshop to show how intentional creativity can actually help you propel into your natural divine nature through authenticity. But again, that's for you guys to explore. No pressure to check it out. I'm gonna be handing out this gamma deck as well as the link because I'm gonna hold y'all down with that. So yeah, guys can also have beautiful presentations like this. Any final words, why that you want to share?
No, thank you, Liz and Edwin, because I approached Edwin the same way when we did this last week. Just showing up, see, like now there's another Sunday, right? And it's always who it's meant to be. Guaz tapped in for a second. People are seeing these reels online. They're looking at description, just keep consistent, y'all. You know what I mean? Go with the flow, man, and please do things that are within your power. You know what I mean? Like fuck any of that shit that gotta we just take these ourselves and look, it's the beauty and strength of 3 people right now coming together. At one point it was 5, right? Just keep doing it in whatever way you can, and the more that you can feel that you don't need nothing more than what you got, that's it. That's how you get the most. Gratitude is the attitude to bring whatever you want. When you go, oh, I don't have, it just makes it feel like you're gonna get more of not having, because we're creating the not having, but look at the power of this deck, look at the power of these, and Liz showed it to me, and even seeing it again, I'm seeing it in a whole new light. And look through these things, take yourself to that space and ask yourself that why, and I know this is being recorded, so we do the Solstice Ciphers. We are in the Decipher chat. You can check out House of Nova's clarity codes and services, right? This is what it's here for. Start with one, start with it, and just keep consistent. Please keep taking these ideas and make them into whatever you need to be. Even if it just helps you get in a vibration for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you can pull yourself into whatever frequency you want. And when we do it together, it happens quicker, it happens stronger, and it happens better. So keep these things going. Thank you, Liz, for your leadership and the amazing amount of time you took to run this presentation. I know when you send it to me, I'm going to utilize it as an icebreaker, as a way to just start conversations and to have these convos with your friends instead of speaking on something that is surface level. Just take it there, and to have a presentation to go with it, to see why you're doing what you're doing and what could be the reason behind our choices, our actions. And taking that look in is never something that we could stop doing, right? We have to continue to do this work, and that's what it's here for. So thank you again, Liz, and make sure to check out House of Nova. Peace. We out here. Edwin, any words?
I just want to thank Liz for creating this amazing Zoom session, but also to both of you guys for just again reaffirming what I've been feeling for a few weeks, which is get rid of what's not serving your purpose. I even wrote a bar about I wrote bars about that, and I don't follow what the fuck I say. But it's if it doesn't serve your purpose, then get rid of it. And I think I just needed to hear that, if it's what Liz says, you've learned up to now and what it doesn't serve your purpose, and let go, because holding on to it will only hurt you more and as you go along.
Mhm.
And I think me learning what I've learned is, a blessing, and now I can apply at least a little bit of it, but also find the path that I want in what I want to do in tech. So again, thank you. This was like a beautiful, like really open my eyes for like the fifth time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm gonna close out the thing because I felt like it was so beautifully said. So please. But yes, thank you again, everyone. Again, just reiterating, I'll be sending this out. Why do you recall all the people that came in? Because I think a couple of them didn't go through the registration thing, so I don't know if
Yeah, we got the folks. It's Hazel, Tej, Gwaza, and then us right here.
beautiful. I feel like everything went in divine orchestration. And yes, we're already at 7:27. So, feel free to linger on to depart if you need to. Thank you again. I'm just so happy that I even have like just one other person was more than what I expected, to be dead ass honest. So, I appreciate you. Yes.
Yeah, and the power lives, you didn't give up. And look how much adversity it takes to even just get through this. But that perseverance and that showing up carries out because the source doesn't know the difference between the small things and the big things. It just knows it is. So, like, don't ever give up. You have an idea, bring it in. No matter if it's one person that comes in, man. It means a lot to me to share space with you guys and I hear this information. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you for stepping up, Liz. Like you said, oh, you're nervous. You did amazing.
Yeah.
You
And you
always-
got all the goods. You can stop your recording if you want. You know
Oh,
what I
the
mean?
recording is done. Yeah, we
Good.
did.
It still says recording, so I.
No, it still said recording. What the? Hold on.